1 year ago of the posting of this video on May 13th, 2023, Atari programming legend Bob Smith passed away. Today I want to honor the works of Bob Smith, who Ed Rotberg would state had a common name for such an uncommon man, by highlighting a little bit about his life and the Atari 2600 games he programmed to start his career. Bob was a college dropout who self-taught himself programming after becoming interested in a programmable calculator. His abilities grew to the point where he was able to build a computer for a lumber yard that he worked at in New Mexico, and would even program a game purchased by a gaming magazine. When his homesick wife wanted to move back to the San Francisco Bay Area, he applied and was hired by Atari, where being 30 with 2 kids and some gray hair made him on the older side of the workforce, consisting mostly of programmers in their early 20s. This would lead to his majority of his time at Atari serving as a supervisor, although he did program one game for them, Video Pinball. He would spend many hours playing a Superman pinball game they had in their office for inspiration. When the game was completed and shown at CES, Bob felt like he finally arrived when the crew from Activision played it and were impressed. The game would sell 2 million copies, and he was awarded a $4,000 bonus for his success. It's possible the low compensation for making Atari millions may have planted seeds for his departure later on. Video pinball may seem basic by looks alone, but having various targets, multipliers, and even the ability to nudge the ball helped make the game popular and influential to the young video pinball genre. Eventually, Bob left Atari along with the man who hired him in the first place, Dennis Noble, to help form Imagic. At Imagic, Bob returned to programming Atari 2600 games, with his first being Star Voyager. The game plays like a simplified version of Star Raiders, which at the time had yet to be ported to the 2600. In the game, you blast enemies and fly through gates. Although the game is well made and enjoyable, Bob has stated he was disappointed after seeing what the competition was doing with a similar game, possibly alluding to Star Master by Activision, which came out about 2 months later and offered a deeper, more complete experience. Next comes a game that was both groundbreaking and possibly too complex for the time it was released, Riddle of the Sphinx. Riddle of the Sphinx uses 2 controllers and several switches on the system itself to play. In the game, you collect items, some of which can affect you in different ways and some of which can be traded or offered at certain Egyptian temples. It also has 3 game variations, which range from a simple high score affair to a variation where you try to solve the riddles in the manual to help figure out which items to offer at which temple. For a system that was known for pick up and play games, Riddle of the Sphinx offered a much deeper experience that was overlooked by many but beloved by some. Next, we have perhaps his most popular game for Imagic, Dragonfire. Inspired by the classic game of Jacks, you must dodge fireballs on the bridge and then collect all the treasures in the room guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. Its simple gameplay was quite the change from Riddle of the Sphinx and was embraced by many Atari 2600 players. His last title for Imagic was Moonsweeper. In this 2-phase game, you try to touch a moon in the first section, and in the second section you go to its surface and try to collect 6 stranded miners before returning back to the first phase. Some of the effects of the game are quite amazing by Atari 2600 standards, but it can be frustrating to play at times. His final game for the Atari 2600 was Star Wars: The Arcade Game, which he was subcontracted by Parker Brothers to program. Again, by 2600 standards, it's technically impressive that he crammed as much as he did into a cartridge, with 3 separate sections including the 3D trench run. Unfortunately, he wasn't given as much time as he would have liked, leaving the game a tad unpolished and not controlling nearly as well as the arcade game it was based on. After the video game crash and the demise of Imagic, Bob would work on several other games, including Warp Speed and the Barkley Shut Up and Jam games for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and even some of the Army Men games for the PlayStation. But it's his Atari 2600 games that tend to be the most well remembered, as well as his many appearances on the video game convention circuit for this uncommon man with a common name. Thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe. And if you have any memories of Mr. Smith or his games, let me know in the comments below. Thank you, Bob, for what you contributed to the video game industry.